Emily Johnson, 20 years old, unmarried, no children. I'm from an orphanage, said Sarah Miller, the HR manager, holding a resume and occasionally glancing at the young woman sitting across from her. So young, and you've decided to apply for this position? Sarah asked, peering over the paper. Emily merely shrugged modestly, lowering her gaze. She hadn't been mute from birth, but for many years she hadn't spoken a word due to a horrific tragedy she had miraculously survived. Sarah shook her head. The result of a car accident that killed your parents. My condolences, a true tragedy. At the mention of the accident, Emily flinched. Flashes of memories from the past flickered before her eyes. Sweetie, sweetie, her mother had cried, hugging her little girl tightly. Don't be afraid. Her father's voice came from the driver's seat, but then the car was rocked by a terrifying impact. Mom, little Emily screamed, painfully hitting her shoulder against something. The world spun before her eyes as shards of glass rained down from all sides. Metal screeched, and her father, unbuckled, was thrown through the windshield onto the road. Emily opened her mouth to call for help, but no sound came out. Not a word, not even a whimper. The stress seemed to have robbed her of her ability to speak. It was dark, cold, and terrifying. She shook her mother's shoulder, but the woman's hand only fell limply beside her. A childhood trauma, then? Sarah asked, pulling Emily back to reality. Emily rummaged in her pocket and pulled out a cardboard sign with the word yes. Then she reached back in her pocket and retrieved another sign. I can't speak, but I understand everything you say. Poor girl, Sarah said, shaking her head, genuinely feeling sorry for Emily. You've been through so much. Emily nodded, her shoulders slumping. Right after the accident, she was sent to a hospital. Then social services came and placed her in a boarding school. There, they even tried to help her with a psychologist who, without much effort, conducted a few therapy sessions. Post-traumatic stress, the so-called specialist had said, throwing up his hands. She shut down after the shock. It's hard to do anything or make predictions. She might speak again, or she might not. Another stressful event could trigger it. But for now, he shrugged, showing his helplessness. Truth be told, he hadn't tried very hard. You got a good high school diploma, though. It's a shame you don't have a college degree. You're smart, but you'll have to work as a janitor, Sarah said, shaking her head. Emily just shrugged. She left the orphanage still mute, and despite her excellent academic record, she couldn't get into college. Who would want a mute orphan? She wanted to say it, but her pocket held only cards with common phrases used in conversation. Honestly, we prefer someone simpler, Sarah said doubtfully. Emily sighed heavily, nodding in understanding. This wasn't the first interview that ended in rejection. Some employers had even kicked her out of their offices as soon as they learned of her condition. Emily stood up from her chair, head bowed. But I feel sorry for you, Sarah concluded. Let's do this. You'll have a 3-month probation period. If you do well, we'll formalize it as part of a program to integrate people with special needs into society. Emily smiled in disbelief and pulled out a card that said, "Thank you." A small spark of hope ignited in her heart. This office was the first place that didn't reject her, and Sarah was the only person in months to show her compassion. The pay's not much, but the duties are simple. You need to be punctual and do your job perfectly, Sarah said firmly. You don't need to talk to be a janitor, but the floors must always be spotless. Can you handle that? Emily nodded eagerly and showed a card with yes. For the first time in a long time, life had offered her something good. The job of a janitor wasn't prestigious, but it was honest, paid work. Maybe things will get better now, Emily thought timidly. Maybe I can start a new life here. But no miracle happened. Weeks passed since the interview, and Emily worked hard, trying not to draw attention to herself. Yet the office gossipers only needed fuel for their cruelty. Why are people so mean? Emily thought sadly as she passed a group of managers who immediately started snickering and pointing at her. When she started at this office, she couldn't have imagined that every single employee would come to gawk at her on her first day, as if she were some exotic animal. A new kind of servant who won't blab. One manager had crudely joked. Emily tried to ignore the blatant bullying. She was used to people mocking her, staying strong, but inside, she cried every day, longing only to be left alone. She probably sleeps with one of the bosses. That's why they hired a mute, so she can't tell the wife, whispered the secretaries. Those jabs hurt too, completely undeserved. The women in the office were even crueler than the men, partly because, despite her condition, Emily was quite attractive, sparking unwarranted jealousy among her colleagues. "Look, there goes our beauty queen," one of the security guards sneered, snapping his tongue, pulling Emily from her sad thoughts. "Oh, don't get me started," his partner agreed. "Our silent princess is a looker, even if she can't talk." The guards laughed smugly, their greasy gazes lingering on Emily's figure. None of them ever offered help or showed basic human decency. Emily hurried past, not wanting to stay in their company any longer than necessary. Feeling their uncomfortable attention, Emily slipped into the elevator to head to her floor. A rough voice immediately rang out. "What's this, the weakling?" a manager sneered. Some nerd in glasses, another chimed in. Who in their right mind would choose to be a janitor at 20? Life's just starting. You could study or do something better. Even without a degree, there are better jobs out there. The manager smirked, making a mocking face meant to imitate Emily's muteness. She didn't bother deciphering their crude antics. "What you deaf to?" "Ignoring me?" the manager snapped, suddenly shoving Emily's shoulder. She stumbled, crashing into the elevator wall, barely catching herself. She exhaled heavily, pain shooting through her as she hit a handrail. To make matters worse, the cardboard card she used to communicate spilled from her pocket. "What's this?" the manager grinned, picking up the white rectangles. Emily lunged to collect them, but he pushed her back. "Thank you, please. I can't speak, but I understand everything you say." "What? Are you a prompter or something?" he laughed, showing the cards to the others. Emily curled up in the corner, pulling her knees to her chest. She was hurt, scared, and deeply humiliated by the fresh wave of undeserved mockery. "What did I ever do to them?" she thought bitterly, tears welling in her eyes. "Look at her." The bully pointed, still holding her cards. "We're just joking." With that, he tossed the cards at her, letting them rain down like paper confetti. "Everyone's like this, just like on the internet. What did I do to deserve this?" Emily felt a heavy pain spread through her, filling every cell with bitter sorrow. The world, like this elevator, felt like a vile prison, each day bringing only suffering. The managers kept laughing, as if relishing her tears. Emily didn't even know where to hide from their cruel stares. Their voices struck like vicious blows, piercing the depths of her soul. "I can't even respond, can't defend myself, or ask for help," she thought mournfully, alone with her pain and fear, trapped in her silence. "What's with all the drama? Think anyone's going to feel sorry for you?" A harsh voice boomed above her. "Want me to be your protector? You'd have to work hard to make me want to defend you." No voice, but the rest of you's fine. Another burst of laughter followed, and Emily's heart clenched at such cruel treatment. Her eyes filled with tears of silent despair, her heart empty of anything but helplessness and hopelessness. She longed to break free from these degrading chains, to feel a friendly shoulder to lean on and share her pain. "Leave her alone, Max," a voice suddenly cut through. It was a guy in glasses. Emily flinched, entangled in a web of mockery and abuse. drowning in a sea of dark emotions. She huddled in the corner, her lips trembling as she held back tears. "What's this, a hero?" Max sneered. "You're just an intern, barely out of college, and you're already barking at senior staff?" Max turned from Emily, looming threateningly over James Carter. Though James looked quiet and harmless, he couldn't stand by. "You can laugh at me all you want," he whispered, "but leave her alone." Emily looked at him with mixed feelings. She was grateful for her unexpected defender, but she knew this would make James an outcast too. Bullies like Max hated being challenged, and Emily was sure he'd never let James forget this. "What's that, hero?" "Not talking," Max said menacingly. "I've said all I need to," James replied, looking away. Tension hung in the elevator, thick enough to touch. The mockers behind Max snickered, but James clenched his teeth, enduring their taunts. A melodic chime broke the moment as the elevator doors opened, releasing its passengers. "We'll talk later, weirdo," Max threw out as he exited, the others following with meaningful glances. "We're outcasts now," Emily thought sadly, picking up her card from the floor. "Don't mind them. They're just idiots," James said, his voice trembling as he crouched to help her gather the rectangles. Despite everything, Emily was grateful for his attempt. Perhaps for the first time in her life, she'd met a guy who stood up for her against a crowd stronger and higher in status. Emily gently touched James's shoulder and showed him a card that said, "Thank you." Weeks passed, and that fateful elevator encounter changed both James and Emily's lives, intertwining them. They spent more time together, and before they knew it, their mutual sympathy blossomed into romance. "I don't get why they pick on you," James said, handing Emily a coffee cup. "You're so kind, gentle, peaceful. Can people really not stand anyone even slightly different?" "I wish I knew," Emily thought, smiling and shrugging. Her heart fluttered at James's unassuming charm. In him, she'd found her protector, whose company helped her not lose hope and keep her inner light alive. Their bond grew stronger each day, weaving their hearts with tender threads of attachment. Emily reached in her pocket, but pulled out a small notebook instead of card. "You didn't have to defend me back then." "Why did you do it?" she wrote, showing the page to James. "I couldn't just watch them humiliate and mock you. You're special, that's all. No one deserves the pain they cause you every day," he replied. "Now you're an outcast too," Emily wrote, sighing sadly. "Believe me, I don't regret it," James said, wrapping an arm around her shoulders. "Since I met you in that elevator, I realize you're the light in my darkness, my inspiration, my purpose." Emily felt her cheeks flush at her beloved's words. For the first time, she was truly happy with someone. "Look at them cooing," one of the guards laughed. As if on cue, they were in a remote hallway. "What? You've claimed our silent princess?" the guard asked James mockingly. "Tell everyone what a cute couple we've got," his partner chuckled. "Leave us alone," James frowned. "Oh, how scary," the guard sneered, stepping closer, grabbing James by the collar, and pulling him forward. "Feeling noble, huh? Been a while since you got a good smack." "Someone's coming. Let's go." The second guard stopped him. "All right, live for now, losers," they laughed, walking away. "You okay?" Emily wrote, looking at James with concern. "Just my pride's bruised," he smiled, straightening his wrinkled collar. "Listen, why don't you come over tonight? We can talk properly without hiding in corners." Emily frowned, writing, "Is everything okay? I'm worried." "Don't worry, it's fine. My mom's sick, but some company might do her good. I'll wait for you after work and show you where we live." Emily smiled shyly and nodded. Her eyes lit up, her heart skipping a beat. Instead of words, she hugged James tightly, feeling his warmth blend with hers. Over these days, they developed their own language, understood only by them. For the first time, Emily couldn't wait for the workday to end. She felt a mix of nerves, excitement, and anticipation about meeting James again. She longed to see his smile, get lost in his eyes, and hear his voice. For an orphanage-raised girl, stepping into his home meant opening the heart of someone she trusted completely. "There you are," James said joyfully, seeing her at the office entrance. She ran to him, hugged him, and kissed his cheek. They quickly reached his building and climbed to his floor. James jangled his keys, opening a creaky door covered in worn leatherette. "Here's our place. Don't judge too harshly," he said, embarrassed, leading her inside. Emily squeezed his hand affectionately, then curiously looked around the small entryway. It was a modest apartment, clearly in need of repairs, showing a family barely making ends meet. "Don't mind the old stuff. It's got soul and history." James smiled, a bit shy under Emily's gaze. "I dream of fixing it up someday, but right now, there are more important things. I save all my money for my mom's medicine. I love her and would do anything to help her recover." "James, we have a guest," a woman's voice called from the room. "Yeah, Mom. I want you to meet Emily," he replied, a bit sheepishly. Light footsteps sounded, and a tall, slender, almost gaunt woman appeared in the hallway. Emily tried to smile politely, but her gaze filled with compassion. James's mother looked truly ill. Sharp cheekbones, thin limbs like twigs, and blue veins visible through porcelain skin, marked by countless IVs. "I'm Angela," she said with a weak smile. "Come to the kitchen. Let's sit." Emily nodded, finding the simple setup cozy, filled with pleasant smells and neatly kept. "James, take care of our guest. Pour Emily some tea." Angela smiled. "What a beautiful sunset today. I wish I could go for a walk," she said dreamily, turning her face to the pink rays of the setting sun. "How's work going?" Angela asked. "Mom, really?" James grumbled. "Everything's fine. Great team. Nice boss." Emily wrote in her notebook. "God willing, that's true," Angela said, looking at her son. James sipped his tea, avoiding her gaze. He hadn't told her about the workplace troubles, but she couldn't miss the bad moods he often brought home. "It's good you two met. James seems different with you, Emily." "More mature, maybe," Angela said. "Mom, stop." James smiled, embarrassed. "Your son is a wonderful person and helps me so much," Emily wrote, showing the notebook to Angela with a smile. "Oh, kids, I hope everything works out for you," Angela said, taking their hands. Emily felt a warm glow spread through her chest at Angela's smile. She'd never seen such love and understanding as in James's home. Now she understood why her beloved grew up to be such a good person. "Emily, forgive me for asking, but James mentioned you grew up in an orphanage," Angela said cautiously. "My parents died when I was very young," Emily wrote. "I'm sorry for bringing it up." Angela shook her head. "I just wanted to say you'll always be welcome here. I'll accept you like my own daughter and will always be glad if you visit again." Angela placed her hand over Emily's, and tears welled in Emily's eyes. For the first time, she felt complete acceptance and understanding she'd never known. They continued their leisurely conversation about everything under the sun. Emily didn't want to leave such a cozy home, but work away to the next day. "Thank you for welcoming me so warmly. I promise to visit often," she wrote in her notebook. "Thank you, son. Walk Emily home." Angela smiled. Emily headed to the entryway to get dressed. James soon joined her, helped her with her coat, and they stepped outside. The sunset had long faded, and a cool freshness chilled their skin. "I'm so glad we met," Emily wrote. "You're the best thing that's ever happened to me." James replied softly, "You're the best thing in my life, too." Their faces drew close, and Emily closed her eyes, her lashes brushing her cheeks as she leaned forward and kissed him. Days passed since that visit, and their love only grew stronger uniting their hearts completely. They stopped hiding their feelings, even at the office. Can you believe it? They say there's a mole in the office, James said, meeting Emily during lunch. Digging up secrets and stealing carrots, Emily wrote with a smile. If only, James chuckled. Someone's leaking important info to competitors, causing major losses for the company. That's serious? Emily wrote, looking at him with concern. Yeah, James nodded. The directors even got security involved, searching for the culprit on every floor, practically interrogating everyone. In the storage room? Emily wrote, they don't have the right, but when it's about big money, anything goes, James grimaced. Security's checking computers, digging through our network, even reading messages. Emily shook her head, slightly relieved she wasn't caught up in the chaos. As a simple janitor, she had no access to data, so she was automatically above suspicion. Right now, they're searching our department while everyone's at lunch, James said. Hey, you, a stern male voice interrupted. Come here. Two men in black suits with grim expressions surrounded James. Their looks promised nothing good. What's going on? James exclaimed, feeling them grab his arms. Good afternoon. I'm Charles. A third man introduced himself, approaching calmly. Internal security. We found data transfers of very interesting content on your computer. Care to comment? No, I don't know anything. James cried in panic. All right, take him to my office, Charles ordered. His two assistants dragged the struggling James to the elevator, not letting him say a word in his defense. Emily froze, watching in horror. Fear gripped her, making even her insides tremble. This couldn't be true. It just couldn't. James was such a good person. It's not him, she wrote, shoving the note at Charles. Trust me, I'm not accusing anyone without reason. We'll sort it out, Charles said with a polite smile, then turned and followed his assistants. The office erupted in scandal after the culprit was caught. The company director, Michael Thompson, known for his harsh demeanor, was ready to tear James apart. It wasn't me. Why would I steal data? James repeated, standing before the director, sweating profusely. Then why is it all on your computer? The messages? Michael shouted back. It's a mistake. James pleaded. There's no mistake. I checked everything myself. Charles interjected. All the data leaks and critical file transfers came from your workstation. I'm just an intern. How would I have access to anything important? James appealed to reason. Anyone determined enough will find a way, Michael dismissed. It was clear no one believed James. The evidence was overwhelming. If you're caught, you answer for it, Michael said coldly, deciding to make James the scapegoat for all the company's losses, real and imagined. Here's the deal, Michael glared. You'll cover all the damages. I think that's fair. Otherwise, we go to the police, and it becomes a real criminal case. How can you do this without investigating? James exclaimed. We've investigated, Michael snapped. I've already taken your documents from HR to make an example of you. You're fired. Pay back the debts, sell your apartment, take out a loan, I don't care. Just give me the money. James tried to stand, but Charles's assistants held him down with heavy hands on his shoulders. Michael was in his right. No one could tell him how to run his company. James left the office, his knees buckling. His gaze was hollow, his face etched with deep worry. Emily appeared instantly, having waited to see how the meeting ended. I can't believe this happened. Why are they accusing you? You're innocent, she wrote. I don't understand it myself. James shook his head. I've never touched anyone else's computer. I don't even own a flash drive to copy data. You need serious equipment to pull that off. What happens now? Do they fire you? Emily wrote. Worse, they're demanding I cover the damages I didn't even cause. I feel so powerless and betrayed. We have to do something. We can't just let this go. There must be witnesses. The real culprit's out there somewhere, Emily wrote. I know, Emily, I know. These debts, my mom's sick. I'm supporting her, and now this. But the accusations are sticking. Charles keeps saying the scheme ran through my computer. Emily grabbed James's hands, looking into his eyes as if saying, "Don't give up," her heart urging him to stay strong. James gave a weak smile, shrugging. "Thanks. Your support means everything. I'm not giving up, just in shock and lost. Give me a little time, and we'll prove my innocence." Emily hugged him, feeling his arms wrap around her in return. Together, they were ready to face any challenge. "Don't cry," James said. Emily tried to smile, but tears streamed down her cheeks. Despite her assurances, she had no idea how to help James and could only hope fate would be kind. Days passed, and the scandal began to fade, but the demands on James didn't. The boss made it clear that if the money wasn't paid soon, James would face severe consequences. "Looks like it worked out," a man said, entering a makeshift smoking area. "Clean job," Max replied, following him. "Oh, you're here, weakling." Max smirked unkindly, while his unfamiliar companion squinted suspiciously. "Maybe we should talk somewhere else," the man suggested. "Why?" "She's mute," Max said. "Might as well be deaf. Look, we clean everything up. No evidence left except on his computer." "Perfect. That dumb intern was such an easy target," Max's companion said. "What did he do to you?" the man asked. "I hate when people get in my way," Max said, rolling his eyes, recalling the elevator incident. "He's always poking around, checking everything, asking for advice, acting like some goody-two-shoes." "What a jerk," the man smirked skeptically. "Whose side are you on? Not happy we got rid of that nerd? Or do you want to be the fall guy?" "Chill," the man backtracked. "I don't care about the kid. Tell me, when do we move on the big plan?" The conversation made Emily feel true rage. Max seemed to linger on purpose, knowing she understood, wanting to hurt her even more. But Emily refused to let grief break her. What a scoundrel, she thought angrily. They continued discussing their plans, and Emily realized a full-blown conspiracy was brewing at the company. "All right, we need to hurry. The partners are arriving any minute," Max said. "If we close this deal, all the assets are ours. That fool will either go to jail or be buried in debt." As they headed for the exit, Emily's mind raced with what she could do, her soul filled with resolve. This wasn't just about the company's fate, but the life of her beloved. "I have to follow them," she thought, dropping her bucket and mop to trail Max discreetly. From the snippets she overheard, the meeting was set for noon, leaving just over 10 minutes until the partners arrived. "They'll definitely come through the main entrance," she thought, forming a plan. "I have to stop the other company's reps from reaching the meeting room. No meeting, no deal. I have to make it." Using the elevator was risky. She didn't want to alert Max or his accomplice, so she raced down the stairs, leaping 2 steps at a time. Her breathing quickened, her heart pounding, but she reached the lobby just as the important guests arrived. "Welcome. We're thrilled to see you in our office," Max said with a smug grin. Emily, desperate, saw no other way. She grabbed a vase and smashed it at the feet of Oleg Lewis, the lead partner. The fine porcelain shattered with a pitiful whimper, petals scattering like a colorful rain, and water splashed onto Oleg's expensive shoes. He shook off the muddy droplets, his face showing shock at the reckless act. "What kind of idiots work here?" Oleg said sharply. "Maybe I should find other partners." No, everything's fine," Michael stammered, his face pale. "You know what? No deal. I've had enough of this," Oleg declared, glaring at Emily contemptuously before storming out with his team. "What is this mess?" Michael roared, watching the high-profile guests leave. "Bring that janitor to my office." Two men appeared out of nowhere, grabbing Emily under her arms. She hadn't expected such an outburst from herself, and now trembled like a leaf. As the adrenaline faded, she realized the consequences awaiting her. "Are you out of your mind?" Michael yelled as they entered his office. "Do you know how much that deal was worth? You've never seen that kind of money in your life." Emily sat shaking in the chair, gripped by fear, just like the day of the accident. Max's deceit and her own emotions pushed her into a trance-like state. She felt the walls she'd built years ago crumbling. For the first time, Emily didn't want to run. She wanted to fight back, to show she was worth something, acting only for justice. Driven by fear or the desire to help James, she exhaled and said, "You don't understand. They were going to deceive you." Michael froze, stunned. "You're supposed to be mute." Emily could hardly believe it herself. Shock and disbelief pierced her. She hadn't heard her own voice in years. Her lips still burned from the words, her throat tingling. Max planned it with them. If the deal had gone through, your business would have ended up in his hands. The stress seemed to have unlocked a forgotten freedom. "How do you know?" Michael asked suspiciously. "Max told me himself, wanting to mock me, thinking a mute couldn't tell anyone, and who'd believe in nobody," Emily said. Michael studied her, then shook his head. Emily wasn't foolish. She wouldn't act like a lunatic, smashing a vase at his partner's feet without a serious reason. "I'm shocked, to say the least, but for some reason, I believe you," he said. Emily exhaled with relief, the tension gripping her soul loosening slightly. Her life no longer hung by a thread at the mercy of a ruthless businessman. The second wave of investigations was less heated. Security swiftly apprehended Max and his accomplice, whom Emily identified. When they were brought to Michael's office, he stood by his lavish desk, facing the window. "Tell me, Max, how can I run a business and plan strategies when conspiracies are brewing in my own company?" Max squirmed in his chair, but the two men in black suits held him down. He glared at them angrily, but got only indifference in return. "What's going on here?" he snapped. "We've uncovered your entire scheme," Michael said. "Charles found evidence and witnesses proving you stole my data and framed James. Your accomplices are already on their way to the police." "And what about me?" Max glared. "Someone has to cover my losses," Michael said, spreading his hands. "It's only fair. Hanging all the blame on one person is your idea of justice." Max sneered. "You didn't seem to care about fairness when you pinned it on James," Michael retorted. Max exhaled angrily, feeling his complete helplessness. His game was over, and it was time to face the consequences. Soon after the conspirators were exposed, the company's fortunes turned around. Michael secured a lucrative deal, ensuring a prosperous future for himself and his employees for years to come. Today, before everyone gathered, I want to express gratitude to the person who helped us unravel this mess of schemes and betrayals, he said. All the company's employees were gathered in the conference room, celebrating a successful quarter. Michael had the room decorated and began handing out traditional bonuses. "I also want to apologize for sometimes being harsh and not paying enough attention to our dear Emily," he said, inviting her to the stage. Blushing, Emily rose, filled with pride and joy at the happy resolution of her struggles. "Thank you, Emily, for your courageous actions that saved our company, shielding me, so to speak, from a fatal mistake." She turned to her colleagues and smiled. The room erupted in applause. Likely the first time in the company's history that a cleaning staff member was honored alongside senior managers. Tears of joy welled in Emily's eyes. "Thank you for welcoming me and giving me a new life," she said, her words still hesitant, but her voice restored. She was no longer mute. "Today, we're not only giving you our thanks, but also a bonus," Michael added. Everyone smiled, and Emily, thoroughly embarrassed, murmured, "Thank you," hiding her gaze. Such attention was still unfamiliar, so after receiving her bonus envelope, she hurried back to her seat, basking in her success. Also, I must apologize again, this time to our intern, James, who fell victim to dirty schemes, Michael continued. James, sitting beside Emily, squeezed her hand and headed to the stage. Today, we officially congratulate him on completing his internship and invite him to join the company as a manager for his outstanding performance and loyalty. James smiled, shaking Michael's hand. It was a well-earned honor. He'd worked hard to gain the team's trust and prove himself. Without Max's manipulations, his reputation would have been untarnished. Regardless, it earned him a rightful place in the company. Michael continued honoring award recipients, calling them to the stage one by one as the ceremony returned to its usual format. Great that it all worked out, huh? James said, sitting back next to Emily. Yes, she exhaled. I'm still not used to hearing your voice. It's wonderful. Thanks. I'm still surprised myself, Emily said. James took her hand. Despite all their trials, their love had only grown stronger. They knew they could face any challenges fate threw their way. So what's next? James asked casually, slipping his free hand into his jacket pocket. You don't know yet. I applied for part-time university courses in management. I want to get an education and work with you, Emily said. That's amazing news, James said joyfully, leaning close to her ear. I wanted to do this on stage, but I thought you'd be too embarrassed. What? Emily whispered, confused. James pulled his hand from his pocket, revealing a velvet box. Its lid opened, showing a delicate ring. Emily, will you marry me? She sighed happily, her heart skipping a beat. Life had finally turned its best side to her, no longer testing her strength. For the first time, Emily felt truly happy. Yes, of course, she answered. Thank you for listening to the story until the end. Subscribe to the channel and share this video with your friends and loved ones. It motivates us to keep working on new stories every day. Don't miss the next amazing story that's about to appear on your screen. We're very grateful to have you with us. See you soon.